42 years. 42 stubborn, restless years. That's how long I walked this earth feeling like something was hunting me, when nothing was. I felt alone in rooms full of applause. I felt threatened by people who were simply busy with their own lives. I felt empty in a house that had more rooms than we ever needed. My name is Thomas Keller. I'm 81 years old. I live in a quiet town outside Portland now, where the rain taps gently against the windows most evenings. And for most of my adult life, I was fighting enemies that existed only in my own head. If you're watching this and you feel constantly tense, constantly braced for impact, if your mind never really lets you rest, I want you to stay with me for a few minutes, because what I'm about to tell you took me 6 decades to understand. It cost me my first marriage. It cost me the softness in my children's eyes. It cost me peace, and I don't want it to cost you the same. In my early 50s, I was a senior partner at a financial firm in downtown Chicago. Corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows, my name etched into frosted glass. I had built myself from nothing. Grew up in a cramped apartment in Detroit. My father worked nights at an auto plant. My mother cleaned houses. I told myself I would never live small, and I didn't. But do you know how I walked through the world? Like a man under attack. If a colleague didn't return my call, I assumed disrespect. If my boss wrote a short email, I read between lines that weren't there. If my wife, Elena, didn't greet me with warmth after a 12-hour day, I felt betrayed. If someone cut me off in traffic, my hands would grip the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I was successful and perpetually angry. I thought I was strong. In truth, I was scared. Here's the part that broke me when I finally saw it clearly. When you feel like the world is constantly attacking you, you're not reacting like the adult you think you are. You're reacting like a frightened child who never learned he was safe. When I was 8 years old, I watched my father get humiliated. He came home one night with a split lip, said it was nothing, but I overheard him telling my mother that his supervisor had shoved him in front of other workers. I remember the way my father sat at the kitchen table afterward, shoulders heavy, eyes distant, like a man swallowing something bitter. And in that moment, I made a promise no child should have to make. I will never let anyone treat me like that, but children don't know how to hold promises without turning them into weapons. So decades later, when Elena simply asked, "Can you help with the dishes?" I didn't hear a request. I heard disrespect. When my son forgot to say thank you, I didn't hear teenage distraction. I heard disregard. I wasn't responding to them. I was responding to ghosts. You might think your spouse doesn't value you. You might think your coworkers are plotting against you. You might feel constantly triggered. We use that word a lot now, don't we? Let me tell you what I learned about triggers. A trigger is small. It's just a mechanism, a tiny movement. It only causes damage if there's something explosive behind it. For over 40 years, I carried emotional gunpowder in my chest. Insecurity, fear of being small, fear of being powerless, fear of being dismissed. So when something minor happened, spilled coffee, a missed call, a delayed project, the spark met the powder, and I exploded. I raised my voice at my daughter for forgetting to lock the door. I humiliated a junior associate in a meeting for making a simple mistake. I ruined family dinners because someone challenged my opinion. And then I would say the ugliest sentence in the English language, "Look what you made me do." No, they didn't make me do anything. They struck a match. I was the one who had been stockpiling explosives for decades. Until you sit quietly with yourself, really sit, and unpack what you're carrying, the world will keep setting you off, and you will keep damaging the people who love you most. There's another enemy I need to talk about. The voice, you know the one. The voice that wakes you at 2:47 a.m. and whispers that you're a fraud. The voice that says you're not doing enough, that your success could disappear tomorrow. that you are one mistake away from humiliation. I believed that voice made me sharp. I believed it made me disciplined. I believed that if I criticized myself harder than anyone else ever could, I would stay ahead of the world. But that voice didn't make me strong. It made me brittle. It wasn't wisdom. It wasn't truth. It wasn't even reality. It was a frightened boy inside me trying desperately to prevent rejection. Somewhere along the way, I learned that perfection was protection. If I could be flawless, I'd be untouchable. So that inner child turned into a tyrant, and I let him drive my life. Here's what I wish someone had told me when I was 35. You don't silence that voice by working harder. You don't drown it with alcohol. You don't outrun it with promotions or purchases. You sit with it. I know that sounds simple. It isn't. The first time I tried, I felt ridiculous. I closed my office door, put my hand on my chest, and quietly said, I know you're afraid, but I'm not a child anymore. I can handle this. It felt foolish, but it also felt relieving. For the first time in decades, I wasn't fighting myself. If I had learned that in my 30s, I might still be married to Elena. That brings me to the deepest regret of my life. I thought I was a good father. I truly did. I paid for private schools in Evanston. I funded summer camps. I bought my son his first car. I covered my daughter's graduate tuition. I told myself I was giving them everything I never had. But what I didn't give them was calm. I didn't give them presence. Even at the dinner table, my mind was racing through spreadsheets and negotiations. I would nod while checking emails. I would answer questions without really hearing them. Children are perceptive. They don't measure love in square footage or tuition bills. They measure it in attention. When a parent is tense, critical, perpetually distracted, children absorb that energy like sponges. They don't think, Dad is stressed about market volatility. They think, Dad is unhappy. Maybe it's because of me. That realization still stings. I passed my fear to them, disguised as ambition. By the time I was 72, my marriage had ended. Not in flames, not in scandal, just erosion. Elena once told me quietly, you're always preparing for a battle that isn't happening. I dismissed it. Years later, sitting alone in a smaller condo in Oregon, I finally understood. I wasn't fighting the world. I was fighting memories. I was defending myself from insults that had already faded decades ago, and in doing so, I wounded the people standing in front of me. If you are watching this in your 50s, your 60s, even your 70s, it's not too late. You are not trapped by your past reactions. You are not obligated to stay angry, but you must take responsibility for what you're carrying. Stop blaming your spouse for disrespect when what you feel is old humiliation. Stop blaming your boss for attacking you when what you feel is childhood fear. Stop blaming your children for being distant when what they might be protecting themselves from is you. That's hard to hear. I know. It nearly shattered me when I admitted it. The greatest gift you can give your family is not security. It's emotional safety. It's a calm nervous system. It's a father who listens. It's a husband who doesn't interpret every comment as criticism. It's a mother who isn't constantly bracing for disaster. If you don't heal what hurt you, the pain will echo into the next generation. Not because you're evil, because you're unaware. I am 81 years old. I can't redo the arguments. I can't erase the nights my daughter cried in her room while I sat downstairs stewing over work politics. I can't go back and tell my younger self that the world was not as hostile as he believed. All I can do is tell you, stop fighting shadows. The world is not your childhood. The people in your life are not your past. Unpack what you're carrying. Speak kindly to the frightened part of you that learned survival too early. You don't have to keep proving you're strong. Real strength is being gentle when you could be defensive. Real power is choosing calm when you could erupt. Everything you are searching for, safety, peace, worth, isn't waiting in the next promotion or the next victory. It's inside you, and it has been there all along. Take care of yourselves. Please, don't wait until you're sitting where I am with more memories than tomorrows to figure this out.